size of the group. And someone wants to join. Just a sec. You got it? Okay. Okay. So we have people from out of state, like you met a couple of them. They'll be jumping on. So, but we have 26 folks. As most of you know, just a quick review, we're looking at our 12th day in Israel today. This will be our last day in Israel is what we're going to cover. And, hey, Dave. Are you on there? There you are. And here's Carolyn with the COVID. She's here. All right, Carolyn. Wear a mask if you're going to be on that screen, Carolyn. Come on now. Well, if you've got COVID signs, I don't want to catch it from you, girl. Put a mask on. Come on now. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining, Carolyn. Okay, so we're just kind of letting some of the folks, they're still coming in, so we're just having them come on in. Hi, guys, come on. Glad you are here. Come on. Orrin and Tilly are coming in. For those of you who don't know, Tilly lied in church this morning, right in the middle of the service. It was a lie. It was a lie. She came and confessed like everything afterward. So those of you watching, I needed someone who'd been a Christian a long time, and I knew Tilly had been a Christian a long time because when I was in Santa Fe years ago, she was part of a group of women that would go to service here and then get in their cars and hustle up to Santa Fe and go to the service in Santa Fe. Did that for a while. So I knew that she had been a Christian a long time. I didn't know how long. So I said, Tilly, how long have you been a Christian? She goes, 26 years. And I was just like, that doesn't fit the math at all. Like, well, I'm not going to make a big thing, so I just kind of brushed by it. So then she came up afterwards. She says, Clyde, it's 40 years. I've been in the same Bible study for 26 years. It was so sweet. At any rate, it's good. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Okay, well, guys, let's get started. And off we go. As we mentioned earlier, the trip starts on June 15th. That's June 1-5. It's a Wednesday. It's easy to remember because that's our middle daughter's birthday. There you go. So now you'll never forget that. So it's June 15th. Oh, there you go. Now you got it. No. So June 15th, that's the day that we're going to meet at the hotel here in Albuquerque. Check-in is anytime after 3 o'clock. It'll be at Homewood Suites by Hilton there on Sunport Boulevard. You get off right where, when you get off the freeway and you go on Sunport towards the airport, the very first exit is to the rental cards and University. That's your exit. And just punch it in and your phone will take you there. But that's where it is. It's a 3 o'clock check-in. That's the 15th. We're asking that you be there between 3 and 5 o'clock. Don't be after 5. So be at the hotel. Say goodbye to your family. Have somebody give you a ride. Don't take your car to the hotel. Have someone give you a ride to the hotel. You say your goodbyes there, and the trip starts. As soon as you check in, it starts. Now, that's all paid for. That's part of the trip. So your hotel is paid for. We spend that evening there. We have a banquet. We'll have some guest speakers. We'll have worship. We're going to have just a wonderful time. Their food there is light. It's salad and soups and that, but we're going to bring meat in. And no, Roman, I'm not going to have you bring the meat in. You're on vacation, and you call me so. But we'll go ahead and get some. We'll go ahead and yeah. Roman's like awesome cook. But at any rate, we'll have some food there, and it'll just be a sweet evening. The trip starts. It gives you a chance to unwind. All the goodbyes are finished there at the hotel. Now, please don't ask, can my family stay for the banquet? The answer is going to be no. You say goodbye. This is when you say goodbyes. You check in, say goodbye. We'll see you on the 3rd of July. Bless you all. Trip starts. They do have a pool there. If you want to swim, by all means, swim. You can have a little bit of time. The banquet will be somewhere around 6 o'clock. We have the banquet room reserved and everything. But we want you checked in. Everything's good to go right there. We do a passport check when you get there for obvious reasons. We want to make sure you all have your passports. So we're going to do that. Now, this is going to sound overbearing, but it's just part of what it is. You're going to give us your passports when you check in at the hotel. We see your passport, and then you give them to us. And for the rest of the trip, we're going to have your passports. And I know every year a few people struggle with that, so I can handle my own passport. I had a real serious confrontation with one. We had a bigger trip, about 70, almost 80 people going with us. And one of the guys, I've told you the story before for some of you, said, well, I'm a grown man. I don't need you to watch my passport. I said, I'm sorry, we're going to just have your passports. Well, that's ridiculous. So we left Santa Fe. We had these buses taking us on down. Before they get on the bus, we had to see their passport. And don't you suppose, everyone's showing us the passport, give us a passport, give us a passport. It's early in the morning. It's like 5:30 in the morning because we had an early flight heading out. So here comes JJ. JJ, passport, please. Oh, I can't believe it. Lee, give him the passports, his wife. Well, I don't have them. I thought you had them. They lived out in El Dorado. Of course they did. And without a passport, that kind of puts a squash on everything. And we can't wait for them to go get it now. We got to go. So we put them on the bus. One of my assistants there ran out, had their keys, ran out. Passports were sitting on the table, got the passports. I said, don't give them to me, give them to JJ. So comes to the airport. Here you go, JJ. Pastor, you want to watch my passport for me? I'm so sorry. That was the end of it. But we do that because we're going to be sleeping on the plane. It's so easy. Just sometimes we get up early in the morning. We leave. The whole trip, I've got your passports. Don't worry about them. I lock them up in the safes at the hotels. I have your passports. You're not going to need them except when we're leaving the country, getting in. I take them. I collect them. I give them back out to you. That's just one less thing for you to have to worry about. Some of you are very exacting. You will never lose a passport. Some of us, you know we're going to lose a passport. We just need one to mess up the whole trip. So we just take all your passports. We've got them. We give them back to you right before you need them. We collect them right after you use them. Yes, sir.
The card, can we just use the card, or do we have the book, the passport?
Oh, Orrin, why would you ask me that? I don't know. I would think.
You need the passport when you're traveling. You need the book. Only the book.
That's why you're there. Thank you, guys.
United States and Canada can read it.
So you need a book. That's a great question. You hear that, guys? If you only have a card, order the book. We need the passport book so they can stamp it and all that goes with that. So you don't have one, do you? Oh, good. Bring the book. Bring the book. You can bring your card too. Stick that in your billfold. I don't want that one, but I want that book. Okay, so we need the passport book. Thank you, guys. Anyone you want, man. I don't care. As long as you're publishing, that's all I care about. Just publish away, man. That's Thomas Nelson. You've heard of his publishing company? Okay, that's good. But at any rate, so that's what's going to happen on the 15th. So everyone understands the 15th now. 3 o'clock, get there. If you want to swim, swim. If you want to sit around and just hang out and say, can you believe we're going to Israel? That's great. The next morning we get up. Breakfast will be provided as well, of course. It's a light breakfast, but it's a good breakfast. We're going to let you sleep in. We've rescheduled it. Those of you that have gone with this before, you know we got up at 3 in the morning, remember? And I said, no more of that. We're too old for that. That's crazy. So we're going to sleep in. They're going to take us to the airport. We're going to get on the plane. We're going to fly to Dallas. We have a 2-hour layover in Dallas, and we go directly to Tel Aviv. It's like, what? It's fantastic. Michelle, yes, ma'am.
What time do we leave the altitude?
Why would you want to know that? We want to be at the airport at 12:30. 12:30 at the airport. We're going to leave around 2:30. But international flights, we have to be there 2 hours early. And with a group like this, we like to be about 2.5 early. We can't check in the group until we're all there. So that's why we like to keep you all together. It gives you an extra day of vacation, and we get started. We have a real good banquet and kind of a pulling together, and that's how it'll be. So it'll be real laid back this time. We'll be well rested, sleep in, enjoy life. That's what we got. Okay, so we've got that. Everyone good to go? Let's go to day 12. Day 12 in Jerusalem now. Yes, ma'am. American Airlines out of Dallas. Yep. There you go. There you go. So we're going to be heading on out on the 12th day of our Israel trip. And we've been talking about the trip, how the trip has been put together. It crescendos. We've talked before, the first day is when we did Caesarea by the Sea, the first tour day. Ended up Mount Carmel, Megiddo, the valley there, Nazareth, go up to Sea of Galilee. We spend all that time up in the Sea of Galilee. After the first night of touring, when you hit the Sea of Galilee, at least for me, and many people said the same thing after that first tour, it's like, it can't get any better than this. I mean, this is ridiculous. Look where we're at. This is fantastic, you know. And every day, they've built it in a way that it gets better, better, better crescendos. This is the last day. This is the day. So this is the day that is nothing but extremely fantastic. One of the first places we're going to go is to a place that is first mentioned in Micah chapter 4. I think the first one, if I remember right, but it talks about the mountain of the Temple Mountain. And it's the first time it's mentioned like that. It's the Temple Mount. And in the Temple Mount was a threshing field just north of the city of David, which was eventually Jerusalem, of course. But it was a Jebusite city. Now, in our Jerusalem times, we're looking at some of that. They've discovered the Palace of David. So when we're there, we look down, you'll get an idea how we could see Bathsheba and all. You're going to see that. It's very evident. Well, to the north of the city of David, it's kind of a small little area just to the south of this little, they call it a mountain, but it's like a hill kind of. He wanted to buy a place where the temple could be built. So we went to the threshing floor of Araunah. It was the tallest place in the area there. And he went to him as he was threshing. Remember, we talked about threshing wheat and all how it's got to be in a high spot, so they throw the wheat up. The chaff blows away, remember, and all that went with that. So he goes around and says, I'd like to buy this. This is the king talking now. Could you imagine the governor, the president coming to you and saying, I want to buy a piece of your property? And you're like, you can have it. We'll work up taxes later, you know. But and Ron says, just take it, David. Just take it. It's yours. He says, no, I'll never give to the Lord something that costs me nothing. So he buys this piece of property. And, of course, we know David can't build the temple because he's a man of war and all. So his son, Shalom, or Solomon, or peace, inherits the responsibility of building this temple. But he builds it on this threshing floor of Araunah. Now, over the years, the city of Jerusalem continues to expand. And soon, we're going to be looking in a couple of weeks at the valleys of Jerusalem. We're going to have maps up here. Rhonda, we're going to find some maps that shows the Kidron Valley, the valley of the sons of Hinnom, or Gehenna, and the cheesemaker, or Tyropian Valley. We're going to see how these three valleys provided a natural barrier for the city of David. But as it grows past the valleys, they fill in the cheesemaker's valley, and Jerusalem just continues to expand to the west and then to the north. And we're going to at that time we're going to look at Hezekiah when he builds this broad wall, this real thick wall to the north, because that's where the natural defense wasn't. So we're going to be looking at all that. Well, the Temple Mount then becomes, as the city continues to grow, not to the north of town, but in the middle of town. It's there. So the Temple Mount becomes surrounded and in the middle of a growing city, Jerusalem. So this Temple Mount is where Solomon built the temple. When we look at the wall, and we're going to talk about that later on as well, the Ottomans built the wall around Jerusalem on top of the existing walls. So when we see the wall from the Mount of Olives, when we first get to Jerusalem, remember, we see the wall. Don't ask, is that the same wall that was there when... No, it's not. It's the Ottoman Empire wall. He built it on top of the existing walls. So we're not going to see the walls of Jesus, but these are the Ottoman walls that were built on top of the walls that were there when Jesus was there. So we're going to see that, but we're going to also see a gate, an eastern gate, built on top of the original eastern gate. And it has been believed that the eastern gate is where the Messiah, when he returns, will come back into the old city of Jerusalem up into the Temple Mount. When we study ancient cities, remember, the gates of the city, you come to the main gate of the city, and right as you came into the gate of the city, there would be their place of worship. It's that way every city we go to. If we go to Corinth, if we go to Ephesus, where do we go? That's how it's set up. You come to Jerusalem, there's the gate. But the temple wouldn't have been there. You're looking for the Dome of the Rock. It's off to the left, about 30 yards. So it's always been kind of an issue. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. But this eastern gate is where they thought the Messiah would come in. Well, when in the Middle Ages, when Islam took over Jerusalem, they said the Messiah is coming through that gate. Ottoman Empire builds this wall. The Messiah is coming through that gate? I don't think so. So they put blocks in that gate. So they just cemented a bunch and they blocked up the gate. You can see the opening, and then it's just all filled in. So, man, Jesus is going to come through there. Now we can't. Yeah, right. Not a problem. But that's how they set it up. So you're going to see the eastern gate is blocked up. So for now, it won't be forever. But that's the eastern gate. So when you see that blocked up wall, that's the eastern gate. Well, when we look at this Temple Mount now, Solomon built his temple there. It was there for a long time in 586 after the third siege of the Babylonian Empire, 586 BC. The Babylonians came in and they destroyed the temple. Solomon's temple was gone, and they took the people of Israel, Judah, captive to Babylon for those 70 years, remember. Then we see in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah, they come back, a portion does, about 50,000, about 10% come back. And they see the ruins of Jerusalem, and they start to rebuild the temple. Now, the temple that Solomon built, he was the strongest king in that entire area by far. He had a lot of good finances. So Solomon's temple was unbelievably fantastic. When they come back from captivity, they don't have that kind of financial backing. They build a temple, but it's a smaller temple built by Zerubbabel. Remember when the people that had seen the temple before the captivity, now they came back as old people, and they saw it, they just start crying. People are rejoicing and crying. The temple's built. The young ones, we did it. The old ones see it, and they go, oh, the price of sin. The consequences of sin. We've got our temple, but it's so much less than it was. But it was there. They had their temple. So Zerubbabel's temple, that's the second temple now, goes on all the way into the days of Jesus, up there on that Temple Mount. Now, Jesus comes, the incarnation. Jesus is here on earth, God in the flesh. The entire time that Jesus is here, King Herod and his followers are remodeling Zerubbabel's temple. They're expanding it. It's a remodel. It doesn't get finished until 66 A.D. So when Jesus is going into the temple, in the Gospels, there's remodeling going on in there all the time. So they're redoing this temple, and he makes it like ridiculously fantastic. Now, throughout our Israel trip, we're going to see Herod's stamp all over the place. So we're going to show you, can you take a note on that, Rhonda, too, if you can find one of Rhodium Stones, those little things are on the corner of it, if you have one of those. Not for now, but for down the road. I'm going to show you a Rhodium Stone because he had a trademark. Whenever he was building something, he had a specific mark that branded that stone or that project as his. And what he did is he just chiseled just a small, maybe a quarter of an inch indentation around the entire stone. So when you see that chiseled frame around the stone, you know that's a Herodian building project. We're going to see Herod all over Israel. He rebuilds this temple and does it really first class, makes it really nice. So it's the remodeled second temple, Zerubbabel's temple. That's up there on this Temple Mount. Well, then you know, in 70 A.D., the Romans come in and completely destroy Jerusalem again and destroy the temple again. Jesus had prophesied that. Remember, he said there would not be one stone standing on top of another. When they came in to destroy the temple, orders were given to the Romans, don't destroy the temple, because it was the structure. And somehow a fire was started. As the fire started, there was gold everywhere in this temple complex. Some of the gold melted as a huge old fire. The gold melted between the stones, and all of a sudden, the soldiers are there going, serious? They pushed that stone over, got the gold out as it hardened, pushed another stone over, literally fulfilling Jesus' prophecy that not one stone would be left standing. It's just amazing how that happened. But there it is. So that is destroyed again. The diaspora, the spreading of the Jews takes place as they're spread throughout the Roman Empire now for the most part. So the Temple Mount laid bare all these years. In the 6th century, another religion was formed under a man who we call Muhammad. And he came up with a religion, Muslim or Islam, and he had a holy site there in Mecca, another holy site in Medina. Those are the two holiest sites in Islam. But then, interestingly enough, he has a dream, and in his dream, he is transported to, of all places, the Temple Mount of the Jews. And in his dream, he gets on a horse, and he goes up into the presence of who he calls Allah, and then comes back down again on that same Temple Mount. Writes about it, talks about it, and that Temple Mount becomes the 3rd holiest site in all of Islam. That was about 500 years after, almost 600 years after the time of Jesus. So all of a sudden the Temple Mount, which becomes the holiest of holy sites to Israel, the place of their temple where God dwelt, remember, in the Holy of Holies and all, it became a very significant place to Christians because that was the temple. I think someone's coming in or just walking by. Just walking by. Okay, we're good. Okay, we're good. Coming in. Okay. Nope, not coming in. Okay, so we're good. So to a Christian, Temple Mount is significant because it is there, remember, that Abraham, and now this gets like really phenomenal. Thank you, Clesson. This gets phenomenal. We go back into Genesis 22. David, if you're on here, David and I just talked about Genesis 22 last Saturday, discipleship. So here we are again, but in Genesis 22, God does something to Abraham that is truly amazing. He says, Abraham, he says, yes, he says, take your son, your only son, whom you love. Now we remember that Abraham had another son earlier with the handmaid Hagar, the Egyptian handmaid. You remember the story. And it was all from the promise where God had promised Abraham to have all these descendants. He was old, his wife was old, they're sitting there talking, they're going, how is that possible? I mean, so God, how about if I adopt Eliezer from Damascus? I have this guy that works for me, I'll adopt him. He says, no, he's going to come from you, Abraham. God says, Abraham, you're going to have a child. So you can imagine, there's Sarah going, my husband's going to have a child. I'm like in my 80s or more. So she says, Abram, I've got this handmaid we picked up in Egypt. Why don't you have a child with her? And when that little guy is born, that'll be your lineage. And Abram said, well, if you think that's what I should do, okay. So he has this little boy, Ishmael. For 13 years, God does not speak to Abraham, which is interesting, 13 being the number of rebellion. Throughout Scripture, we see that number 13 is tied to rebellion over and over and over again. So it's just an interesting thing. For 13 years, God does not speak in response to Abraham and Sarah trying to help God out to keep his promise. Well, then, all of a sudden, God, you know the story. He says, no, you're going to have a baby with your wife. It's almost like, duh, Abraham, come on. Sarah hears that, remember? And she laughs. And God says, are you laughing? I didn't laugh. He said, you laughed. So they have this little boy. She has a child. A year later, they have this little boy. They call him Laughter, Isaac. So now we fast forward to Genesis 22, and God says, take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love. God does not recognize Ishmael as being one of the sons or a son of Abraham. And what a reminder for us that God never remembers or recognizes the fruit of the works of our own flesh. So we can have all these great plans and all that stuff, but no. We want to hear from God and walk in obedience to him. So now all of a sudden, here is Isaac. The word that is used for him in describing him seems to imply he's an older teenager, maybe in his younger 20s. And God tells Abraham, go to the mountains of Moriah. We're going to show you on a map when we do our map study where Moriah is. But go to the mountains of Moriah, and offer your son as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I'm going to show you. So Abraham, can you imagine? That's your son. Abraham gets up early in the morning. Off he goes to the Mount of Moriah, which is modern-day Jerusalem, interestingly enough. So he goes there. You know the story. They get there. Abraham tells his servants that are with him, you guys wait here. My son and I are going up on the mountain, and we'll come back down to you again. So he takes some wood. He gives it to his son Isaac. Isaac carries the wood that's going to be used for his sacrifice, mind you, and has Isaac carry the wood up this mountain in Jerusalem there. Up they go. And you know the rest of the story. He binds Isaac. Isaac willingly gets on that altar. He's a 21-year-old. Abraham's almost 100 or more. Isaac could have taken him. But he willingly goes on to the altar. Abraham takes the knife. He's ready to thrust it into Isaac, you remember. And as he's ready to do this, the Lord said, wait. Now I know, basically now you know, Abraham, that you will not even withhold your son from me. And then there was that ram, remember, caught in the bushes. They go get that ram, they offer as a burnt sacrifice, and they come back on down. Well, what's really interesting, guys, is that rock, that Mount Moriah, is the same mountain that we today call the Temple Mount. Islam, the Muslims now, they make that their third holiest site. They build the structure on it. It's not the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's their third holy site. But they build this structure on top of the Temple Mount. And it's a golden dome. You see it when you see Israel, that big golden dome, beautiful building sitting on top of the Temple Mount. That is Islamic structure built over the rock that they believe, the Jews believe, and the Christians believe was the place where Abraham brought Isaac. Now, Islam says, no, it's not Isaac. Look in the Quran, it's Ishmael. So they just changed the son. So he's the older son, and he's the father of this whole group of Arabian people. So they just kind of transfer that out and say it's Ishmael, and we are the people of Abraham. The Jews say, no, you know the story. It's Isaac. As Christians, we follow the Jewish perspective of that. But what's interesting, guys, when we stand on the Mount of Olives and we look at Jerusalem, you're going to see that golden dome, and you're going to realize, okay, that's where Isaac would have been offered right there. When you look down that hill, on that very same hill, you'll see the wall cut through the hill, the city wall, and just outside the hill to the north, we're going to realize today on the trip, there's Calvary. There's where Jesus was offered. And how interesting that in Genesis 22, the first time love is mentioned in the Bible is in Genesis 22. Take your only son whom you love. And that love describes the love between a father and son as they go up to Mount Moriah to take care of some family business of sacrificing his son. Fast forward 4,000 years, and here's father and son Jesus and the father going up that same hill, with Jesus carrying the wood of his sacrifice up the same hill to do business on the same hill. And you'll see that same hill. So this Temple Mount is very significant to Islam, very significant to Jewish belief, and very significant to Christian belief because of that, for the Christian perspective. Now, when we get to the Temple Mount, it's an interesting thing because in 1967, Israel came in and took over Jerusalem from the Jordanians. So that 6-day war, boom, there they are. They came right up to the Temple Mount. There's their Temple Mount right in front. Oh, there we go. There's their Temple Mount right in front of them. Thank you, Tom. We're going to show you on the screen, guys. You're going to see the Temple Mount drawing right here. Thank you, Rhonda. Thanks. But at any rate, what's going to happen is in 67, Israelis come in and they take over Jerusalem for the first time in thousands of years. They have control of Jerusalem. It's a big deal. They come right up to the Temple Mount and they say, do we go in? And they said, we're not ready for the Temple Mount right now. We know if we take the Temple Mount, we are going to have many, many Islamic nations coming in on us harder than you can imagine. This is one of their holy sites. We're not ready for it now. They made a decision. We're going to back off right here. We're going to allow the Jordanians to continue to administer the Temple Mount. But as Israelis, because it's in the middle of our city now, we are going to have authority, I guess is the word, to go up there if we need to. But we're going to let you guys have it. Let's just back off right now. We've got Jerusalem. We're not ready. That happened in 67. It's still that way today. So when we go to the Temple Mount, we're going to go through this little checkpoint. It's run by the Israelis, but then we go further, and there will be the Jordanians, and we'll go up onto the Temple Mount. When we go up to that area, we are under Muslim law, which we found out the difficulty. The first time we were there, with Connie and I were there, we're touchy. I like to hug my wife. I like that. I like to have my arm around her. I feel it feels good. So we're standing there listening to them talk about that, and I just put my arm around her. She cuddled in, and all of a sudden, whoo-wee, someone behind me came in. You were there, Sandy. You saw it. Oh, they don't play. I had no clue. I mean, I'm just sitting with my arm around my wife listening, and all of a sudden this guy came up screaming and yelling, and oh man, they realized it was English, so he came in English, and he didn't say no PDAs, but that's what he was getting across. Do not touch that woman. And it's my wife. Don't you touch her. Okay, okay. And then the tour guide says, yeah, no PDAs up here, guys. I go, okay. Kind of weird feeling not to be able to hug your wife. It's just weird. But at any rate, that's what it is. So guys, just know that. Don't be touching your wives up on the Temple Mount. And it just doesn't, not allowed, not allowed. So that's what we got. So that's going to, you got 4 months. Don't talk too quick. But anyway, so here we are, and we've got this, that situation up there. But we get in the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount is extremely big. Very big, multiple football fields. It's a very big piece of property. When Solomon and then Herod, when they started to build around to make this flat platform, they built these huge retaining walls, huge retaining walls. And you're going to see some of them. The western wall, that they call it the Wailing Wall. We talked about that last week. That's what that is. That is a retaining wall, just holding the foundation for the temple that was built up. Well, it's there. You can still see the retaining walls. To the Jews, the Western Wall is very important and very significant. It's as close as they can get to the Holy of Holies part of the temple, which is where the very presence of God was. That's as close as they can get, is that Western Wall. Now, some Jews are allowed up on the Temple Mount, but they can't pray up there. The Orthodox Jew will not go up there because we're not really sure where the temple was exactly. And the last thing we want to do is step where the Holy of Holies was, so they don't go up. So they get to the Western Wall and they pray there. So we talked all about that in our last study. But as we look at this huge complex, you're going to see this Dome of the Rock centered right smack dab in the middle of the Temple Mount. That is not the third holiest site. The holy site on there is way to the south of the Temple Mount. When you look at it, it's not much to look at, but that is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That is their holy site. So when we walk in, we'll mention it when we get there. To the right, there it is. This Dome of the Rock is a beautiful structure. It used to be, Dave, I told you, you should get in there if you can. I was reading just recently, since we met yesterday, and they're not allowing non-Muslims into the Dome of the Rock anymore. Years ago, you could go in there, but now, just recently, they backed that off. But we'll see when we get there how it looks. But we look at the outside of it. The Dome of the Rock has got a bunch of Arabic writing around the edges of it, around the top, right below that golden dome. And in there, it has some extremely blasphemic verses to Christians. It talks about that there's one God, he had no son. And, it's basically just a tribute to Allah is what it is. So it's offensive, but it's Arabic, so I don't read it, so I'm okay. But that's around the edge of it. There you go. So that's the Temple Mount. It's significant. What's really interesting is where the temple was. There's all kinds of theories. There's 4 theories. Some teach that, no, it's right where the Dome of the Rock is. That was where the temple is. And for the Jews to rebuild the temple, which we know they're going to do, the Bible's very clear on that, that Dome of the Rock is going to be destroyed. And of course, that Dome of the Rock is destroyed. all of Islam nations will be coming down with an unbelievable jihad war. It'll be like serious. So, but that's one of the theories. Another theory, no, it's on the southern part, where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is, same issue. Others say, no, it's between the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, same issue. But there was a fourth man who came up with this theory, and it's a theory that I adhere to. It's a theory, so you don't have to agree with me on this. But his name was Asher Kaufman. And Asher Kaufman came up. He looked at that eastern gate, and he says, wait a minute. All the gates in antiquity led to their temple. So he said, look, if you stand right here where the eastern gate was and look ahead, Islam has a structure on there. It looks like a gazebo almost. And they call it the Dome of the Spirits. And you get, why is it called the Dome of the Spirits? We don't know. It's just what we call it, the Dome of the Spirits. Well, he measured it out, walked it out, and the temple, Solomon's temple and Herod's temple, fit exactly there with the Holy of Holies right where that Dome of the Spirits is, interestingly enough. Why is that important? Because Ezekiel talks about a temple being built and a wall dividing this unholy structure, many believe it's the Dome of the Rock, and the rebuilt temple. And the temple fits right there in the Dome of the Rock with the wall dividing from the Dome of the Rock and the temple. And of course, people say there's not a chance in the world the Jews are going to want to build their temple on the Temple Mount with the Dome of the Rock sitting there. Not going to happen. There's not a chance in the world Islam's going to allow the Jews to build that temple. And that's where the Antichrist comes in. Because he's going to bring peace. And it is going to happen. And could it be there? It could be. We don't know. So you're going to hear different theories. It's just fun to look at and say, what if? What if? Now we know that according to Ezekiel 37 and 38, we mentioned it this morning, all this isn't going to take place until Russia comes back in the news somewhere. And Iran's got to be back in the news, because that's what the Bible says. Russia and Iran will be back in the news, and they're going to come in towards Israel through Syria. So somehow Iran and Russia are going to have some kind of ties with Syria. Oh yeah, that's where we're at right now. So interesting. So it's right there. We're right there. So we're going to be looking at that. If the Lord doesn't come back, we'll have a good look at all that. If he does, don't worry about it. We'll see it looking down. It'll be fine. But either way, it's going to be good. So we look at that. This Temple Mount is so significant to us as Christians. It's so significant to Islam. It's so very significant to Judaism. It is their number one holy site. It is Islam's number 3 holy site. And to Christians, it's just cool. But it's worth the visit. It's worth seeing. Now, after building it all up, I've led many trips to Israel. Twice we've not been able to go up on the Temple Mount, where they just shut it down. Sandy, you've been all 3. Did they ever shut it down on us?
Yeah, shut it down last time.
They did last time. Yeah, they shut it down. So sometimes they'll just shut it down. And it's usually because of political intrigue somewhere.
We were there during Ramadan.
Oh, that was a mistake, huh? But at any rate, yeah, well, that's what we got. But at any rate, there it is. So sometimes they will shut it down. No, I've been up during Ramadan. It's just, you never know. Yeah, you never know. It can be, whatever. It's just what it is. With the truck shooting.
Yeah, something happened in the West Bank.
Yeah.
Where a truck
Yep.
exploded, blah, blah, blah. So that was when the kids walked through and they were camping.
Yep.
It was scary.
Yeah. But they'll just close it down sometimes. So if they close it down, they close it down. So maybe out of 12 times, maybe 10 times yes and 2 times no. Just know it's a possibility. If it is, that's what it is. We're at their mercy. But there's so much other stuff to see if not. But this is a fun one. This is a fun one. So that's going to be our first place. Then we're going to go from there into St. Stephen's Gate. We're going to go into the ruins of the Bethesda, the pools of Bethesda. And it's kind of cool. It's just a place where, well, you know the story. I won't get into the story because of time, because we took a lot of time on the Temple Mount. But the pool of Bethesda, it's fun to see. We'll talk about it when we're there. It's these pools, and you'll see the porticos and the significance of the healing of the waters stirred and all. You know the storyline. So we'll see that. Then we stop at St. Anne's Church, and that's just fun. We'll have some of the folks just sing. And it's just this echoing. It has no biblical significance whatsoever, but it sure sounds cool. It's just a reverberation echoing, and it's just fun. If you want to sing, have you ever sung in the shower? And you go, I'd probably be on that worship team. Well, that's what that's like on steroids, man. Your voice sounds good at theirs. You just sing away because it's cool. It sounds good. So we're going to hit there just briefly. It's fun. And then we're going to head over to a walk called the Via della Rosa. We're going to walk on that. It's typically not what you expect because, you know, there's the cool song, the Via della Rosa. There's the Stations of the Cross on the Via della Rosa. And when we walk on it, it's a marketplace. I mean, there's people selling everything and anything, and it's not this, oh, this is going to be a holy site. No, it's not. It's just like, whoa, man, there's people everywhere. They're going to try and get you to come into their stores, take you in a back alley, and there's all kinds of stuff. So just stick with the group. We're going to just keep on going. And we're going to walk that path. And then we're going to walk into this Antonio Fortress first. We're going to be Antonio Fortress. Again, we won't talk about that now. We'll talk about that later. Take the Via della Rosa. We're going to go out a gate called the Damascus Gate. It's on the northern side of Jerusalem. So we walk out that gate, you're going to see a bus stop. And we're going to, the way to remember that, Gil, is the gates are named after the city you're going to go to when you go out that gate. And Damascus is north, so you know the north side. That's how you can remember it. So, but we're going to go out there. Are two different sites that are the possibility for where the crucifixion took place. One is to the west of the city, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. One is to the north of the city, an Arab bus stop. So it's one of those two places. We're going to try on this trip to go to both of them. In the past we have, and I always try to add more stuff. So we're going to try at both of these sites so you can just get a look at where they are and how it looks. When we go to Gordon's Calvary, it's called, and it's a bus stop, and it's one of the most disheartening things when I say, wait a minute, Jesus died in front of that hill, and it's a bus stop? And there's a bunch of old buses out there. It's like, oh, man. But you'll see, oh, there it is. You can kind of see from this angle, Roman, we're putting a book together for y'all. It's about a 50-page book laminated with different pictures and backgrounds of each place that we go to, and then worship songs on there. Well, Roman sent us a picture, gave us a picture to just make a copy of it, and it's a different angle, the angle you really can see the look of a skull from there. This is one of the angles. You can kind of see one of the eyes and the mouth. When we are at this garden tomb area, you can see it better. Yeah.
I have it in the car.
Don't show it to him yet. We'll show it to him later. Let him see it. But it's really sweet. It's really sweet. So, but we see this skull, and it's called Skull Hill. Calvarium. That's where we get the word for a skull from. The Latin word for skull is Calvarium. And this is called Calvarium, or Calvary, Englishized, because of the appearance, many people believe, of a skull. And what the Romans would do is the Romans would put crucifixions. Remember, there were thousands of crucifixions at this time in Israel, throughout the Roman Empire. And what the Romans would do is they would put, we studied it on our Sunday morning studies, a placard above the person on the cross, putting his crime up there. So when people would go by, they would see, whoa, he did that. Don't do that. And I'm not doing that. It was just a way of stoking fear and obedience forcefully into an empire they were trying to unite. So the crosses weren't put up on a hill. I know the song says on a hill far away stood an old rugged cross. It sounds beautiful. But it's in front of a hill far away. Because they would put the crosses alongside the road, and then people could walk by and they would see the person on the cross, and there would be this hill behind them that looked like a skull. And it just added to the So we're going to see that hill. We're going to spend a little bit of time looking at it. We're going to worship there, thanking God for the gift of Jesus Christ and his obedience going to the cross. And it's one of those things that's like, this is amazing right here. It's amazing. You're going to block out the buses because there's buses driving up and down in front. It's like, oh, man. But there it is. Then we go to this park. It's in that same area. We're not saying this is the tomb. We're saying this is a tomb. But what is interesting, the Bible says that there was a tomb in a garden right near where Jesus was crucified. So the Brits came in and have this beautiful garden with a tomb right there. Now for me, I like to just, this is probably the tomb. I don't know if it is or not. I choose to believe it is. If it's not, it's okay, because I know whatever the tomb was, he's not there now. And that's all that really matters. But this really helps commemorate it in a very big way. So we go in, we get to go in the tomb by 2 people at a time, and you're going to see what an inside of a tomb looked like. Now remember the purpose of the tomb. The purpose of the tomb was different than it is in our culture. They used these tombs, but they were basically decomposition chambers, is what they were. So they would lay a body, they would wrap the body, Jewish burial rites, they'd wrap a body, think of like a mummy in Egypt almost, but not the face, just up to the shoulders. And then they would wrap the head, but they'd leave the face open. And they would take the body and place it on a carved out rock bed. Then they would place that body on that bed and close it up and let the body decompose. They wrapped it with a bunch of spices and ointments to stop the decomposition odor. Then after a year or 2, they would go back in and they would just unwrap and take the bones that had been decomposed. They would take the bones and place them in a stone box called an ossuary. So they would place the bones. They had certain ways. The femurs belong to the bones. They have all placed a certain way. They get all 206 bones in that box. And then they would take that box of bones and they would store it in that tomb. It's the family tomb. And you would have, there's grandpa, there's grandma, there's mom, there's dad. There's a place for me. There's a place for my family. And you stored these boxes in the tomb. So many people would decompose on these bedrocks, I guess, rock beds, but they would be laid there. The tomb that we're going to go into and look at, they have 2 of them, and that was typical. You'd have 1 on each side, because sometimes there'd be more than 1 death, and you'd have decomposition going on 2 different bodies. So we're going to see that. When we go to the Israeli Museum, remember we talked about Caiaphas, that one high priest. They found his ossuary. They know it's his ossuary because it says Caiaphas, the high priest. There it is. So they have that in the museum, so you can get a chance of the size. And of course, because he was prominent and wealthy, his is very ornate, and it's whew. And then there are people like me, it's like a shoebox, you know, it's just plain, but it's just what it is. So there are just different designs on them, but these ossuaries. So when we go in there and you realize, is this where Jesus resurrected? We don't know. But we're commemorating his resurrection there. And nothing becomes more real than when you walk into an empty tomb, having looked at Golgotha. I really can't describe that. And for me personally, if I paid for the trip and I just landed in Tel Aviv, went to the Garden Tomb, got on the plane, came back home, the same price, it would be worth it. Everything brings us up to that moment, but that moment is like sick, man. It's amazing. And that will be our last day, our last thing. Then from there, we're going to spend a night in Jerusalem again, and then we'll get up the next morning, we're going to fly to Thessaloniki, Greece. We're going to be in Greece for 5 nights. 2 nights in Thessaloniki, 3 nights in Athens. And during our time in Greece, we're going to see, of course, the biblical significance. We'll cover that starting in April. We'll cover the Greece trip. We're going to go to Thessaloniki, but we're not going to really hit a Bible study in Thessaloniki. We're going to wait until we get to Philippi. That's our first stop. We're going to drive up to Philippi. We're going to see Philippi because that was the first stop for Paul in Europe. And then we're going to go from Philippi to Thessaloniki, then from Thessaloniki over to Berea. And then we're going to stop at a place called, I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, but just think of Meteor with an A at the end of Metoria, maybe. But it was a place where the Greek Orthodox priests would go to get away, so to speak, like for many years. And I was talking to David MacGyver, and he said, are you going to, he called it Meteoria. And I go, yeah, we're going there. Oh, man. Remember, he worked for a multi-billionaire for years as his bodyguard butler type of thing. So he went all over the world with his family. It was like, tough job, David. Yeah, it was pretty good. But he says, that's one of my favorite places in all the world. You're going there? I said, we're going there. Oh, oh, man. So we went and watched, what's the guy's name? Rick Steves. We're watching him getting more stuff on that one spot. It's amazing. Write that down. Rick, S-T-E-V-E-S, I think is how you pronounce it. Meteor, M-E-T-E-O-R-A. But it's these unbelievable buildings built on these crazy rock spires. If you've ever been to like Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs, put it much taller and much steeper than those outcroppings and put them all together and now just build like a castle built into them somehow. I don't know, but it's crazy. Biblical significance, nada. Pretty cool to see? Oh yeah. If you're a church history instructor, bomb. You're going to love it. So it's pretty good. But we're going to go to there, then we'll go down to Athens. When we get into Athens, that night we're going to spend, so on that day it's going to be Berea and this Meteoria, and then the trip down to Athens from Thessaloniki. The next morning in Thessaloniki, we're going to be looking at Mars Hill, the Areopagus, and the Parthenon, just some of the basic things there. And we'll be covering all that going forward. Then we're going to head down to Corinth, and we're going to do a major tour of Corinth. So that will give us Thessaloniki, or Philippi, Thessaloniki, Berea, Meteoria, part of Athens, and Corinth. Then the next day we're doing absolutely nothing. You are so free to enjoy Athens. If you want to take a bus tour where they just take you around and show you all Athens, have fun. You want to rent a boat and go on a boat ride, have fun. You want to go shopping, have fun. You want to sit and eat just Greek food and just stuff your face, have fun. Whatever you want to do, it's your free day in Athens just to enjoy Athens. The next morning we get up and we come home. So that'll be Greece in a nutshell. So I just wanted to hit that, and that's where we're at. Any questions? Any questions online?
Do you prepare a vegan meal?
Do I prepare a vegan meal?
I mean, this is like a request.
Oh, it's a piece of cake because you can go kosher. And if you go kosher, you're going to get pretty close to a vegan meal and just don't eat the meats. But yeah, you can. But in Israel, eating vegan is a piece of, not a piece of cake, that doesn't sound right, but it's very easy. Yeah, but it's very easy. So, yeah, it's Mediterranean the whole time. Vegan diet, that's what a lot of them are. So it'll be very easy. And if that's what you want, we can also request it on the flight over. As long as we know in advance, just make sure we know in advance. And the person you talk to, if you have any requests like that, who do you talk to? Talk to Miss Connie right there. She got you. So if that's something you want, and if not, we can't get a vegan meal, if we can't get a vegan meal and you come with a bunch of meat, I'm in seat 14B.
Sorry.
Oh, you already got it? Oh man, just give me your meat. I'll eat that, no problem. But yeah, that will not be a problem for you. Just on the airplane, as long as they know in advance, it's not a problem. When is it due? That's a good question. So here's how the insurance works first, and then we'll go from here, okay? The insurance, the problem we're having, and this is for Lauren as much as anybody, when you need to hear this, you pay your money. Once you pay it, at certain deadlines, the money's gone. Those that have paid now by February 1st, as you know, that money's gone. $1,000 is gone. So if you say, I'm not going, there's $1,000 that's still gone. So with the insurance, here's the issue, is we go to the airport. We're in Dallas. They're going to require us to have a COVID test. Or we go to Israel. They're going to require us to have a COVID test. If you test positive, you can't get on the plane in Dallas. That's what they're doing. Now that might change by the summer. I'm hoping it will. But even if you're vaccinated, you can still test positive. And if you test positive, we put this money out and we can't get it back. Well, that's a lot of money just to roll the dice on something like this. So they came up with an insurance policy. If it's Israel and Greece, it's a little over $500. If it's just Israel, it's like $300. If you say, I just want to have my flight insured, which to me that just makes no sense to me, but you can pay like $70, and if you test positive, they give you all your money back for your flight. If you pay that 300 and some change, they give you all of your Israel money back, $5,100 back right away. Or not right, they'll send it to you. If you pay the $500, Israel and Greece is covered on that. You get all your money back. So I'm encouraging, for the first time in all the trips I've taken, I've never taken insurance out. This time I'm strongly encouraging, take the insurance out. We're spending too much money to risk that. But if you don't, that's up to you. You don't have to. But if you don't and you test positive, I don't even want to hear about, I can't believe I got my money back. So I'm telling you now, listen to me, guys, get the insurance. Just get that. But if you don't, that's up to you. You don't have to. When is it due? My understanding is we have to call the travel agency and they will do it. But it's got to be done within like 45 days, I believe it is, before we leave. But what I would do if I were y'all, you've got that number, call the number and say, when is this insurance due? And don't say, well, Pastor Kahn said, because I'm not an insurance agent, guys. Go with them. Go with them. I'll help you on the tour. I'll make sure we get where we're going to go. I'm going to get you there safely. I'm going to get you back safely. Make sure you got food to eat, even vegan. And we're going to be all happy. That's my responsibility. We're going to check on you each night. We're going to check for blisters, for headaches. We check on you all the time. We'll make sure you're okay. How you doing? Because a blister can ruin your trip. A headache could be dehydration. So we want to just make sure you're not dehydrated and that you're okay. So, yes, sir.
I talked to Sharon at the insurance
Okay, good.
agency, and the way I understand it, I was concerned about if one of us cannot travel, what happens?
What's the other one?
to the
Yeah.
other one? And the way I understand it, you're traveling companions, so that if one is unable to go,
You both can.
you're both insured.
Wonderful.
So that's
Or-
the way I understand it. Is that
What I'll do, I'll call to confirm that. I'll call and confirm that, but I like the way that sounds. Thank you, Orrin. That sounds good. What Orrin said is if you're traveling with somebody and one of you tests positive, so I don't want to go without my mate, they will cover both of you at that point. That's what the understanding is, but we'll confirm that to make certain that's 100% accurate. Okay, very good. Thank you, guys. Any other questions? Lauren, that's your only question? I'm going to like you a lot. It's about food. That's good. That's good. That's my concern too. Are we going to eat? Uh-oh, okay.
Do we have snacks in between?
Oh man, see girl, you're on our list right there. This is good. Yeah, there's going to be, here's how it works. Good question. In Israel, I'll speak Israel first now. Israel, the breakfasts are, they're really good. That's all I'm going to tell you. They're really good. You will not have a shortage of food, I promise. You will not have a lack of choice of food. If you want to eat a true Mediterranean diet, they have tomatoes and cucumbers and fish for breakfast at 6 in the morning. It's fantastic. After about 4 days of that, I'm looking for the Cheerios. That's just me. I'm an American. I like Cheerios, okay? So I get the Cheerios. They have good breads. They have fruit. They have eggs. They have, sorry, close your ears for a second. They have meat. They have everything. They have everything imaginable and lots of it. So breakfasts are way good. Lunches, we don't eat them. So we're in the Middle East, so we're going to have mostly 2 meals a day. However, 5 days, I believe, in Israel, we do have lunches. Whether it's a falafel will work because that's, are you familiar with falafels at all, Lauren? The chickpea little thing, there's no meat in those. That'll be perfect for you. You'll love it. And then they have the chickpea little sauce, that tzatziki sauce. Oh, man, it's good. So you'll be set there. So our first travel day, we have that. The third travel day, I believe it is, we go out on the Sea of Galilee and all, and then we eat some of the fish from there. We have a nice fish dinner. Fish, yes or no? No fish. Well, we got good salads. There'll be salads. Oh, Roman, will you stop eating all our food, man? but there's we'll make certain. I'll make certain we find something for you. You will have what to eat for sure. Other days, what I do, and it's just I'm talking, but what I'll typically do is I will take a couple of that fantastic rolls they have there in the morning. I stick them in my pocket. And I'll take a little bit of cheese and stick it in my pocket. And by the time lunch comes around, it's like a melted cheese sandwich. It's fantastic. It's warm. It's fantastic. So, you can hit whatever you want to hit on that. But it's, there's lots of fruit. There's lots of stuff. But there's food. There's definitely food available. So we'll be, but it's very, food is never an issue. The evening meals, wonderful. Phoebe, what do you think of evening meals? Superb. I like that. Superb is good. So we're going to do a lot of walking, but it's going to be lots of food and eating. Desserts, if you like that kind of thing. Unlimited supply of all kinds of desserts. Eat as much as you can handle. It's really fun. It's just fun. But at any rate, yeah, food is good. The food is real good. Everything is fresh. Their fruit is fresh. Their vegetables are fresh. And they seem to be bigger. Maybe it's just because I'm in Israel, I want them to be bigger. Doesn't it seem like just bigger fruit? It's just, everything's bigger. It's just fresh. And it's just, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's fantastic. So get ready to eat as well. But that's just a side light. But it's a good side light. We're doing food next week, right? So next week we're covering food. So it's a whole hour of Israeli food, what to eat, what to look for. Make sure you grab one of these. So that's Israel. Israel food is not going to be an issue. Now in Greece, the breakfast is covered in our price in the Greece tour. Our evening meals are not. So when you're looking at your food, be ready for that because we're going to have to eat off the not off the streets, but you know what I mean. We're going to have to eat. We're going to have to eat out and around. And it can be expensive or it doesn't have to be expensive. I can just speak for ourselves. What we do is kind of like to eat. We like that. And we like the evening meals in Europe because they last 3 to 4 hours, and we love that. And you're just sitting and you're talking, and it's wonderful, and they just keep bringing food, and it's fantastic. And for what you get, the value, well, who knows now with the economy, but the value's always been very good for us in Greece. I mean, ridiculously good in Greece. But I don't know now. So make certain you don't spend all your money in Israel on souvenirs and then get to Greece and I don't have money to eat because we're going to have to buy our own food in Greece. The breakfasts are covered. The rest of the meals aren't. So that's what that is on food in Greece. Good stuff. Yes? No. Yeah, guy. Oh, yeah.
Are we able to bring protein bars?
Only if you're my daughter. Yes, you definitely can bring protein bars. You can bring food as much as you want to bring. Yes, guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But you got to pack it. Don't carry on. You got to pack it. Yeah.
We're probably going to transfer into shekels and euros before we leave here, right?
We are. Good question. What's going to happen, guys, online as well, you can go and do it in your home place, or you can just send however many shekels you want. Send a check of, let's say, I want $500 in shekels. Just mail us a check, $500. When you make your last payment, add an extra $500 for shekels and maybe $300 for euros. I'm just picking numbers. It doesn't have to be that. What we do is our bank here that we bank at the church, there's one of our locations that does international currency. So we take all that money, get it, boom, do it, put it in envelopes, and give you your money back. We don't make any money on that. It's just a convenience for you. If you want to do it yourself, you're more than welcome to. The best place to go that we found is Wells Fargo on Montgomery and Juan Tabo. Montgomery and Juan Tabo. They do international currency there. If you want to do it, feel free to do it. If you say, man, no, you do that, I'll be glad to do that for you. We'll do it. So up to you. Makes no difference. Just secretary.
So the last payment is due on
April 1.
1st, so that's when you need to have, that's when you want to have the money for exchange.
No. I want the money for exchange in May 1st.
May 1st.
Yeah, May 1st for the exchange of money. It takes about a week, but I want it May 1st so we have plenty of time. The last thing we need is all of our money sitting over here. That's not good. So May 1st, and that gives everybody a month just to grab some, figure out how to do it. Yeah, Terry?
If we spent all of our money in Israel, do they take credit cards?
They
or
do.
rest-
They do. Just bring a card and life is good. You bet. They love cards. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Tom? Yeah, yeah. Unpacking? Tom, that's great. Go talk to them. Set up a time on a Sunday afternoon if they can, or whenever they can do it. This time would be good. We've done that in the past, and it lasts about an hour and a half. The packing class at Lieber's. Was that an hour and a half? Yeah, that's great. We'll take that. That would be awesome. Thank you for finding out. Just, can you follow up on that? Set up a time. If they can do it on a Sunday, great. If not, pick a day, maybe Saturday probably if they can, or later in the afternoon, and whoever can make it can go. We have done those in the past, and they are most helpful. They are most helpful. Lisa, can we do one of these from Lieber's or no? We'll do the same thing. We'll let you know. We'll try and set up the same thing for those of you online so you can get a part of that packing thing as well. We did a little bit of that now, but Lieber's, I mean, they've got it all. Now, obviously, with Lieber's, they're going to show you how to pack, but they're also going to want you to buy some stuff there, but you don't have to. You can just learn. Yeah, Carolyn?
No, I was just saying I need that.
Okay, we got that. We will do it. So, Lisa, when Tom gets the place, find out with them if we can do one of these. Because I've got two people on here that are really say, we want that. So, thank you, girl.
And then the lady from Alaska got the time wrong. So I'm gonna have to send it to her.
That's fine. Thank you for all you're doing. I tell you guys, Lisa deserves, I'm not sure what, she doesn't like to be pointed out, but this woman has done remarkable things with all you guys online. Not only here, but the theology class as well. And I know you don't like that, but too bad, because it's been pretty awesome. So thank you. Thank you for everything. There it is. You've done phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So thank you for that. But at any rate, so any other questions? Tom, you had yours. Guy, he had yours. Sandy, you had yours. Carolyn says she needs it. Lachey had hers. Terry had hers. Yeah, Janice?
How many hours will we be on a plane to Tel Aviv?
You know, that's a great question. Let's just figure it out real quick. I think we leave at 6:30, and I believe we get in at like 6:30 the next evening, 9 hours, probably about 14 hours maybe. 13, let's just say 12 hours and we'll be close. Yes, sir.
How do we show proof of vaccination?
Those little cards?
Just the card?
Just the card, that's it. I'm not saying to fake it.
I have a question. How many shekels do you recommend?
How many shekels? I would rather have you go into dollars. It's how many dollars you want to spend, because my mind in shekels doesn't work that way. I struggle with that. So just figure dollars. It depends. I know some of you, I'm not going to say who, but some of you know already. I want to get a long shofar, and I want to get a olive wood Last Supper like Miss Rachel got. I want one of those. And he knows how much that's going to cost, so he's working side jobs, painting like everything to come up with that kind of money, because it's going to cost him $1,500 for his souvenirs. But that's fine. If that's what you want, that's how you do it. Now, for me, I don't want any souvenirs. I've got my souvenirs. I'm good. I want ice cream cones. So their ice cream there is fantastic. It's great. So, you know, my how much I'm going to bring is going to be a lot less than what you're going to bring, because you're going to be looking for that souvenir. Sandy and Brigitte, are you going to be buying a lot of souvenirs?
No.
Did you buy a lot of souvenirs the first time? Yeah. That's how it works. Your first time, and we tell you this all the time, if you see something, buy it, because we're not going by that spot again. So don't say, well, I'll wait till I get to Jerusalem and get it then. Big deal. You might save $4, but you might never see it down there. And you're not going to spend your time walking around Jerusalem looking for a souvenir. So if you see it, buy it. So how much you're going to bring, it really depends what you intend to buy for souvenirs. That's all I can tell you. Food in Israel, we're going to buy a few lunches in Jerusalem. When we go in the Galilee, it's kind of fun. You're going to see little stands on the side with homemade jellies and just fun stuff. And it's just fun because we'll stop and give those guys up in the Galilee some business. We pull a bus and they love it. And it's really good, man. It's really good. It's really good. Those of you that have had grandmas that canned, that's what it's like. It's like, oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, Michelle?
The last time I was in Turkey, I bought some of their orange marmalade.
Oh, yeah. It's ridiculous.
But the mistake I did.
You ate it.
Well, no,
Oh, good. Phew.
I put it in my carry-on.
Oh, they took it. They took it.
I put it back in the suitcase.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Any kind of food you don't want to bring as a carry-on. And what we encourage you to do is buy the food and eat it. Don't bring it home. Just eat it. Just eat your food. You'll be fine. Yeah. Connie is saying this happened to a lot of people. They lost food at the airport. So it's just better just to, yeah, just eat it in Greece, eat it in Israel. Life will be good. Michelle says if you put it in the suitcase, you'll be fine. I'm not saying that. Michelle's saying that from personal experience, so I'm going to trust Michelle on that. And if it doesn't work, man, I've got her for the next 5 years. I'm picking on you, girl. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Michelle. That's awesome. Thank you, girl. Not you. No. Thank you, man. That's awesome. So there we go. So how much money? It's so hard to say. If you were not going to buy any souvenirs, I'm not buying one souvenir. I'm not going to do it. You're going to do it, but I'm not going to do it. I would bring probably $300 in Israel and probably $300 in Greece. No souvenirs. I think that would be safe, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I think that's safe. If you want some souvenirs, maybe add a couple $100 of souvenirs on there. I don't know. If you're going to buy a really nice souvenir, bring more. Now, where Gil's going to be getting the Lord's Supper in Bethlehem there, they'll take cards. So just know that. And if you buy anything of quality, especially in Bethlehem, I'm not going to say this anywhere else, but at the Three Arches in Bethlehem, we've been there, going there for 30 years. I know these people well. They will ship it for you, and you can trust them. It's always come. That's what Rachel said. She shipped hers out. And it's a lot better to ship it because they know how to wrap it to make sure it gets to you safely rather than trying to take it through Greece and try and put it on a plane. Something of that cost and that size, just ship it. I can't speak any other place than there. So, if you're going to buy something off the streets, you say, oh, just ship it to me. I don't know if I would do that. But that's up to you. I don't think I would do that. I wouldn't do that. Would you do that? I wouldn't do that. Not the street. I wouldn't do that. No. These guys have been to Israel. That's why I'm using them as backup today. But I would not do that. But at any rate, it's so fun. And we're going to talk about some of the, there's the garden tomb. You can see you can see the blocks. That was an original, obviously. They've built that up and covered that up. I like to think when I see that, that's when Jesus came out. But it's not. But I just like to think. But it's just, that's the garden tomb. That's what you'll be going into to see an empty tomb. And it's something, not magical is not the right word, something really sweet about going into an empty tomb from that time period. It's just sweet. It is. And it brings significance to when it says that he was, Joseph of Arimathea, had a tomb which no one had ever been laid before. So the power of death had never even been in that tomb. It's no decomposition in that tomb. It was a brand new tomb. So it's just kind of cool. Yeah, Clesson?
Just to comment on that, you said it was a really special moment. I know when we were in the garden after seeing Golgotha and going in that tomb, we had communion in the garden right there. That was really special.
Did you guys hear that online? Clesson was saying, he says, we're in this beautiful garden that the Brits have put. It's really a beautiful garden. It's big. It's like a little park. It's really nice. And we go off to the side, and you can look down and see Golgotha. Then we go into this empty tomb. Then we have a spot designated for our group, and we have communion there. And we have this real sweet moment. And he was saying that is really amazing time right there. So that's how we end. That's how the trip comes to a close right there. And then we go back for supper, and we take off the next morning. But I've been to Israel many times, guys. My first trip was in 1968. I've been there many, many times. I go back now, not to see the places so much. I go back to have you see the places. It thrills my heart as a pastor to see what happens to you. You can have your moments at different places, and it's so fun to see. It's so fun to see. You never know where it's going to be, but all of a sudden, your husband, your wife, or you're going to be just there, and you're going to become overwhelmed. And sometimes it's, why am I overwhelmed here? But I'm overwhelmed. And the tears will just start flowing, or you'll get those little goosebumps, or you'll just have that time. When that happens, we're going to mention it throughout the next 4 months. When that happens, if you see tears rolling down me, do not come to me and say, hey, Pastor, why are you crying? Leave me alone. I'm having my moment right now, man. It's real good right now, real good. So just have your moment. Allow your moment. Don't pick on your mate because he or she's having a moment. Just walk away. Let them have their moment. It's not even the time to give them a hug. It's a time just to let them have their moment, man, because all of a sudden their faith has become more real than they ever imagined. And it's the most amazing thing. The first time I saw Connie have her moment, I had my moment, watching her have her moment. It was like, oh. And I don't know why I was there, but it was on the Sea of Galilee, and I don't know why, but it was. And okay, that's good. That's good. And so you have your moment, man. Just enjoy your moment. It's awesome. One of the things that we are going to have, Lorna, is I would encourage you to get a Bible. And we get them. I get mine at Bibles Plus. And I would encourage you to get a New King James Bible. And the only reason is it's real. That's what we're going to be reading from. And if you have the same translation, it's easier. So a New King James Bible is the way to go. And get a cheap one. My Bible, this one was $27. So don't go spending $500 on a Bible to go in Israel. It's going to be in the desert. It's going to be on top of Masada. It's going to be in water. It's all over the place. So just get a Bible. It'll be special to you because you're going to Israel. But Bibles Plus on Wyoming and the Candelaria is a great place to get them there because they have inexpensive Bibles there, and they're pretty good. That's, oh, I suppose. Oh, that's even better. Yeah. Lorna, they've got those too. Get a small Bible. Yeah, you're young enough. You can see. I got to have the large print, man. Those small Bibles don't work for me. But if you have a small Bible, it'll fit in your bag, fit in your pocket, whatever, and that's really good. So get a smaller Bible, New King James, though. Don't go to NIV or something because it's harder to follow along. New King James, the smallest one they have. You want the whole Bible. You want the whole Bible, not just the New Testament. You want Old and New Testament because we're going to be in both. And what we do is when we go to different places, we always we'll say, oh, bring your Bibles. And then you bring your Bible. And there's some of the folks that are coming on the trip, they're not going to be able to find places in the Bible. So you'll say it's right here on this page or right around here. We go through and we read maybe 3 verses, 4 verses, not very long. Oftentimes we have our guitarist with us. He's going to be doing some worship. We have song books, and we have these other books I was telling you about. You have those, all the words for songs you probably don't know yet, but you're going to know them because they're pretty cool. And we sing them just briefly, 1 verse here, a chorus here. So we sing and go through the passage where we're standing. So it puts you right in the page. When you come back home, I'd encourage you to write the date. Man, the flowers smelled great here. Whoa, this was beautiful. The mountain to the left, I don't know what it was called, but it was fantastic. Write it in your Bible. You come back home and you read it, you're right back there. You're right back there. You smell the word, you see the word, you hear the word. It's amazing. So make sure you bring a Bible with you. And I would encourage you, don't bring your study Bible because it could get chewed up a little bit. So just bring a travel Bible, inexpensive travel Bible, have that. And then, well, I want my notes in my Bible. Well, write it down when you get back home. Put them in your study Bible because otherwise it could. I've lost, yeah. Yes, Donna.
Going to Israel and Greece and Italy and these places, I call it show and tell Bible study, and it will spoil you for traveling any place else.
Oh, Lorna, I told you that. I didn't tell her to say that. I told that to Lorna. I said, I'm sorry what this trip is going to do. It's going to ruin every vacation you ever take now. I'm so sorry. Because you can still see stuff and eat stuff, but you don't have that spiritual significance, and it's different. That's all I'm going to tell you. Thank you, Donna. That's 100% right. That's 100% right.
Can I say something else?
I wish you would.
The valleys of Jerusalem,
Yeah.
the way they come together, it makes a shen or ben, and which is one of the things that's used for the name of God. And God says, I will show you the place, the city where I will put my name.
Oh, is that a letter that forms?
Yes,
What letter was it?
it's the sin or shen.
What letter, Sandy, what letter is that? You know? The shin? Oh, you know that too. Okay. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Do you guys hear that? The valleys of Jerusalem, if we go in a hot air balloon above Jerusalem, we're not going to do that, but if we did, and we look down, the valleys that form, they form the letter shin, which is a letter the Jews used for God. And God had talked about putting his name on that place. That is awesome. You got that in your last tour, didn't you? No? One of the tours. It's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That is so good. How you doing out there, man? Good, good. So any other questions? Thank you for sharing that, Donna. Any other questions? I hope you join us, Lorna. We would love to have you. It will be a trip of a lifetime. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you that. All right, guys, let's pray and we're done. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this time just to get together here. I thank you for the 6 folks that joined online here, 5 folks that joined online. And pray you bless them as they prepare to join us. Thank you for the folks that showed up today here. God, I pray that everything goes super smooth. I thank you for Lilo and all that she has done, Sharon and all that she has done in Philadelphia. Thank you for Linda, how much she has done here to make this trip good for us. God bless Linda Sanchez. Thank you for all that she's done. I thank you for Connie and all the work she has put in to make this go smoothly. I thank for Don and all he has done. I thank you for Lisa and all that she has done. God, it's so sweet to see. Pray for Lilach over in Israel, Lord. That God, I pray that you would use Lilach to give us that perfect guide for this trip. And I pray, Lord, we would shine bright as we go through Israel, as we go through Greece. In Jesus' name, amen. So we have Carolyn. No, we had 6. We have Carolyn. We have David Dean,